I've got some genetic risk for, hormone related, particularly menopause related hair loss. But you actually identified 73 causes of hair loss and you have them put together in your own kind of framework. So I'd love to talk about that because I think women think, oh, it's a nutrient deficiency or it's a hormonal thing or it's this, but there's so many other contributing factors. And just like everything else in functional medicine, it's never just one
It's
thing, ever,
never one
ever,
cause,
ever.
and there's overlap. So mine do overlap, but it's important that I thought it was important to put them in these 5 functional root cause categories. So one is digestive, which includes nutrition, gut health. So and there's not number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but I'm just counting them out. 2 is hormonal, and as we know, and we can go into it more, but our hormones are created in our gut anyway. So you can see these are going to overlap. 3, stress induced. And again, that can, if you're stressed, if you're constantly in the fight or flight, you're not going to absorb your nutrients. So overlap. Um, Hormonal toxins, toxic overload, and inflammatory, chronic inflammation. So yeah, I mean, they all have overlap, but it's important to, you know, put out the fire with all of them, or it's like you're not going to get your hair to grow.
True. Or it'll grow and then it'll fall
Right,
right back
right,
out. We see a lot of that. Like
right,
it gives up the ghost halfway down,
right.
or whatever. So let's double back. Let's talk about some of the big sort of the big overarching items in digestion that people may not be aware of that might really be contributing. Like you and I before we got on the conversation started talking about our gut bugs and things like that. What are the things that people really need to hear about their hair and their gut? So I think a lot of women experience periodic hair loss due to cortisol, and then when you add that on top to the menopausal hair loss, first and foremost, actually by the decline of testosterone, because everybody thinks testosterone causes hair loss. It does if it makes DHT, but it can also be a cause when it's low for hair loss in
Yeah.
women. But then when you couple it with the loss of progesterone and estrogen, it's like it's a double whammy. All of a sudden, you're just like, I can use a orthodontic rubber band for my hair, for my
Yeah.
ponytail. You know, it's true because hormones play a role. So let's talk a little bit about the inflammatory activities of hair loss too at the follicle because I don't think people realize that it's an inflammatory condition. Like what's really going on the
Yeah,
scalp?
yeah. Well, and just to add to what you just said about DHT, so DHT can get elevated. I've come across some studies just like drinking too much coffee. So it goes hand in hand with cortisol and just being in the fight or flight constantly and just thinking that's the way you need to live your life. It has a just a roundabout effect. Um, yeah, um so going into the chronic inflammation. So this played a role in the COVID shed, we can call it that now, because part of COVID was inflammatory. So what happens is when you have the systemic chronic inflammation, which you usually don't know about, unless it's skin related, then it's kind of obvious. But you have this silent chronic inflammation that can cause all sorts of things, even um, plays a role in like celiac disease and malabsorption. But there's a couple of phases of hair growth. It prematurely puts you into the resting phase of hair growth. That's the telogen effluvium. That's why they call the COVID
Mhm.
shed chronic telogen effluvium. But it's happening day after day. I mean, it's like 50-60% of women worldwide now are having major hair loss. That's up way from what it was before, 20-30%. But now with the worldwide chronic stress and chronic inflammation and the consumption of toxins and not absorbing I mean, it just goes on and on. But that is the actual mechanism of the chronic inflammation is that boom, it just pops you into that telogen effluvium resting phase of of hair, so your hair's not gonna grow.